first time I heard of Main Source.
Yeah,
So, because that was the first 12-inch, at least that I knew of, that you guys had or that I got
yeah,
with,
yeah,
with Think or Atom. So right out the gate, you guys, or you in particular, were like, Think. So
yeah.
what was it about you in that 89-ish era that made you realize like, oh, this is something that I'm going to build my career around?
I mean, like I said, it was a calling, but Think was more like just hearing the industry. I mean, and at that time, it was a more concentrated area where hip hop was coming from. It was like strong New York, like a lot of the regions that are in it now weren't really, you didn't hear from them as much. So, and I heard a lot of guys just talking about a lot of BS on the songs. And it was like, yo, Think, man, Think, let's take this higher. Let's get some thought-provoking music out there, like KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane and them kind of dudes. Like it just started, I felt like it started getting a little, I don't know, it was getting funny. So, that was on my heart. Like, yo, Think, like I'm saying a lot about that. Like, yo, these dudes is rapping about not, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was fun, man. Those were some fun times with my man Paul C, just putting ideas together and kind of just living up, where it's like, all right, we put this beat together and Think is the topic. And, and that also was a time when everyone was ODing on the Ray Collins sample. So we were, we were right there with everyone else.
And scratching it up. But also another one of the samples was the speaking of Big Daddy Kane, it had this similar usage with the Calling Mr. Welfare with the horns.
Oh, chicken, yeah, the James Brown chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy at the time because there are a lot of typical samples. It was like funky drummer and stuff like that. And it was like, all right, dudes started feeling like, yo, I want to get out of the norm with it. And so when you came up with a different record that you were a freak, it was like almost your record. So in those times it was funny because yeah, we used it and then we heard Kane. It was like, oh man. And we had used the drum break from Isaac Hayes, and then we heard the Jungle Brothers. It was like, oh man. So that's what created like dudes wanting to be more and more rare with the records and samples they decided to flip. But just for some fun times, man, some fun times. And we flipped it kind of ill. Like it was ill. Like technically, if you get into the technicalities of like, yo, they didn't have the crash in it, and they elongated the loop in there and that type of stuff. Like, technically we flipped it.
Well, that brings up a lot of good points because for me, like hearing Calling Mr. Welfare and hearing Think, I've always been never disappointed to hear the same sample used by different people because so many people did it and it wasn't, people make it out like it's a big thing, but whatever. So for you as a producer, I know one reaction was to try to get more rare, but what's the genesis or idea of being able to like use the same thing but do it in a different way than someone else did? How did that work for you creatively?
Well, I mean, that idea came later because then like records just be, like Google said, he said, yo, rap is an art, you can't own no loops. Like then it started becoming like, all right, well, now everyone's using the same drum loop. But in those times, you didn't know if this person was using it. You just heard like later, it's like, oh wow, he used the same thing. Like after a while, it became acceptable for dudes to like say, all right, well, this one flipped those drums. I'm gonna flip those drums in a different way. And that just made hip hop dope because then it was a like it stepped it up a little bit. Like it was like, all right, you can take like it's like an episode of Chop where they give everyone the same ingredients and what can you come up with it? And it's just fun, man. It's just fun for hip hop, man. I'm just glad hip hop was able to thrive, this something from nothing culture, on these just little elements, man, of records and drum beats and kicks and snares, man. I'm just happy for hip hop.
Absolutely. And also on Adam, I was always intrigued because back in this era, you know, rap was starting to get into the idea that it could be on the radio or video or whatever. But we had gone from verses being super duper long, 90 bars or 3-minute verses or whatever, into Adam, the verses were very, very short. So
Yeah.
do you remember strategically why you, or creatively why you did it that way?
Yeah, nah, it was just a matter of just, you know, the in and out. It was like, yo, I got a little something to say, and then I'm gonna be out of here kind of thing. Like, yeah, I remember back in the days, like you had Melly Mel and the, you know, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, like doing two sides of a record, like, you know, it song being 7 minutes. And it's like I was only one rapper, so it wasn't the same for me. It was like, all right, cool, starting to cut them up in the verses, and you know, just real quick, something. So it was all about the music, really, and just accompaniment of the music. These are some words that kind of say what the music is saying to me, or something contradicting what the vibe of the music is. Like just something just way off. Like me and Akinelli used to do that. We'd have like the happiest beat and talk about the most grim situation, you know, over that, just to give some contrast. So, you know, that's where we started to go with it.
Okay. And then thinking Adam is on actual records, which I never really learned much about. So what was that?
Actual records, well, we had a crew, me and my partners from Flushing had a crew called the Actuals, that I will always say, like, even in Adam, I'm saying Actuals intervene. Any questions? You know, we kick the essence, main source breaks the atom. So it was like all this science involved, kind of like, yo, we them actual dudes. And so, you know, everyone ran with that. Like when it was time to name the label, it was like, yo, we're gonna name the Actual Records. And we just kept it from there. That was actually main source, Sean McKenzie and Kevin McKenzie, K Cut and Sir Scratch. Their mother was our manager. And so when we were shopping our demos, in those times, it was like a lot of people were seeing that it was better if you just go ahead and press your own record up and put it out there, like skip that step of trying to look for a deal. And we just followed suit with that. You know, we pressed our own joint up, and that's what kind of, you know, catapulted us to where we got to, you know, with Wild Pitch.
Yeah, because I remember too with the Watch Roger Do His Thing and the Large Professor single later that it said it was coming on actual records.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, yeah, we were going to go all the way with it, but we were still shopping. And one thing that happened that was dope was like Pete Rock played Think and Adam on BLS. And then when we made the second single, you know, Pete Rock and them were playing it, which DJ Premier was a regular listener. And so he heard the stuff and he was able to go to Stu Fine from Wild Pitch and say, yo, these guys are serious right here. And then Stu Fine reached out to us. So it wasn't a matter of us shopping the demo anymore because we had the demo on the radio already. And I think a lot of the execs were already, you know, they were kind of getting into that mode where it's like, all right, well, if you believe in your art, you know, how far did you take it? And to see someone press their own record up, you know, was enough for some of these guys to be like, all right, cool, we could take it from here. And that's how we wound up on Wild Pitch.
And people forget, well, not forget, but I think people, you know, Gangstar being on Wild Pitch for the first album. But what did you guys, you and Premier, did you ever really talk about that later? Like, thanks for hooking us up, or like, how did that work?
I mean, we were at some cable TV show, you know, where they were interviewing Gangstar and Main Source. And then we went back. It was uptown in the Bronx, Guru and Premier. That's when they lived together in the Bronx. And, you know, we just kicked it. It was like, yo, man, we heard your song, man. Like, he didn't tell me, like, yo, we put in a good word for you at Wild Pitch or anything. It was just like, we were just kicking it. And then later on, I found out that Premier was kind of like, you know, in Stu Fine's ears saying like, yo, these dudes are dope. And I think he did the same thing for UMCs too.
Okay. How about that? Blue cheese in effect.
Yeah.
So how did you, I always want to get some clarification on this. How did you, how were you dividing your time in this time with working with Kool Rap and DJ Polo, doing main source, producing on the side, all this stuff? Because people forget too, because it's so easy to make music today, relatively speaking, that back then that wasn't easy. So how were you doing the group, producing outside, shopping deals? How are you balancing all that?
And going to school, right? Yeah, no, I was in high school at that time, and it was like multitask. But that's the time when you do those types of things. You know, it was like it was time for me to grind in my life, like, and I was just living up, man, to the grind. It was like no sleep, like no sleep. Like sometimes I would be in the studio with G-Rap until 5 in the morning, go back home real quick, shower up, and go to school from there. That kind of thing. Then go to night school and then go back to the studio. So it was just time for me to grind. And I was of age, like 18, 19 years old. So I was, tireless anyway. I was just ready to rock and, just get an abundance of work out there and just get busy.
Okay. And early on, since a lot of people, not everyone, of course, but a lot of people would tend to focus on one thing, how did you find you were getting, satisfied being a rapper and being a producer so early on in your career?
Well, in hip hop, earlier than that, it was like, you had graffiti, you had breakdance and all these different elements that you would try your hand at. So when it came to just being involved with music, it was like, all right, cool, a little bit of rapping. I used to do that back in the days, like when Slick Rick and them first came out, is when I started kind of really trying to get some rhymes on paper. Music I always listened to, like the DJ was first, so you always heard James Brown, Give It Up and Turn It Loose when we were breakdancing. So it was always these different elements that you could do and try your hand at. So that's what I was doing and on the music tip, just a little bit of producing, rapping, DJing, all of that.
Okay. And then how were you getting in all these different rooms and different circles so much?
Well, that was just word on the street. It was like, yo, there's this kid, man, this professor kid, man, from Flushing. He's coming up on the beats, that kind of thing, because I did put in the work early to get a drum machine. So that was a big thing to even have a drum machine. Like, it was like, all right, yo, there's this dude, he got this drum machine. And then to actually be nice at what you're doing, the word is going to get around naturally. Yo, there's this kid, so now the word is going to travel to Queensbridge, East Elmhurst, Corona, and it was just that kind of thing at the time. It was like, yo, this kid is nice, and boom, you just wind up in the room.
Okay. And then I've always heard different things and never really known for real. So what, if anything, did you really do with Eric B. and Rakim's Let the Rhythm Hit Him?
When Eric B. and Rakim were working on Let the Rhythm Hit Him, they started with Paul C. Rakim had met Paul C. some type of way, and they clicked. Like, they were getting ready to go. Like, and Paul had did a few of the songs already. He did Run for Cover, I'm Untouchable, I think one or two more. And then, my partner, my mentor, Paul C., met an untimely demise with getting killed in his basement of his home. And after that, people came to me, they were like, yo, we heard that Paul taught you the tricks of the trade with the drum machine. We wanna see, like, yo, can you come in the studio to further his work? And then if you have something yourself, and I just lived up, at that time, man. It was so crazy because so much was happening. Like, I'm mourning my man. Like, I'm like, damn, man, Paul is gone, man. But on the other hand, it's like this, like, yo, they calling me like I'm the next Paul C kind of, and I just wanted to live up, for my man Paul, for myself, just for the whole movement of what we were trying to do. And that's what we did. That's what we did.
Okay. So was it that getting in with Eric B and Rakim, is that what got you the Wanted Dead or Alive stuff with Kool Rap? Because I know Eric B obviously.
Yeah. Eric B was executive producing G-Rap. He had Lynn Star Productions, which was his production company, and he was signed up to exec G-Rap's Wanted Dead or Alive, and there was a few projects like Brett Lover, Freddie Fox. He had a few projects he was working on. But once me and G-Rap clicked, it was like I was kind of locked in on working with G-Rap, working with Eric B and Rakim, and just getting busy.
Yes, and get busy you did. Money in the Bank is my favorite song on that album, and that's also the one that you're credited with producing by yourself. So what was different with Money in the Bank that you did that one by yourself?
Yeah, the credits were crazy with those projects. The credits were crazy, but I mean that was such a fun. It was such a fun session, man. Like everything happened organically. Like everyone just came in, and G-Rap, being the loving heart that he is, man, he just let dudes like, yo, if you got something for it, just put something down. I wrote for the beat originally, like, and I let him know, like, I played him the beat. He was like, yeah, I rock with that. He wrote right there, and I let him know. I'm like, yo, I wrote something too for this. And he was like, yo, go kick it. And I was like, oh man, my God, man, G-Rap gonna let me rhyme on the beat. And I did it. And he was like, yo, keep that. That shit is ill. Like, and it was like, yo, G-Rap is saying this, man. This is incredible. Then Ant Live came in and Freddie Fox and were like, yo, what's up, man? Get a verse on this. And them dudes was on the record, man. It was just incredible. But why I got sole production credits on that one, I don't know why, and not the others. It was just, that process was just so crazy to me, man. But I'm just glad, to have any credit with anything associated with G-Rap. Definitely.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal project. And with Money in the Bank, there's so much I want to ask you. But the thing, I think people remember the horns and stuff, but to me, the two other sonic things that I always thought were amazing were the bass line. And again,
yeah,
if you rip, I mean, better than anybody, but that bass line is so sick on there, and it's really like, I don't want to say hidden, but if you listen, it's so phenomenal. So why? Obviously, I love it, but why didn't you punch that up or make it a little louder?
Well, I mean, that's dealing with the SB 1200 days. So, you got this mono sampler that's 12-bit. There's but so much. Now I know technically, sonically, what I was dealing with before. And, it was just about a beat making thing before. It wasn't really even about getting anything sonically any place. It was just like, all right, cool. This is what we're doing. We getting busy. It's a hip hop thing, so. But now I know, like, you got a mono machine that's 12-bit. There's but so much you're going to get out of that, If anything, I needed to pump the drums up, but, it did good for what it was. It did good, especially for those times. There are not many beats and songs that are too much, like, brighter or bigger or better than that at that time. Like, everyone was going for that grimy sound.
And with the grime, you also had the echo on the drum, which to me, that and the bass line, to me, the horns are amazing, but the echo,
right,
the bass line, man, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's those drums. Sometimes you catch the natural reverb from the record itself, and it had that. And I think the engineer Anton Puchanski, I think he put the little bit, he knew what it needed, and we were good.
Be sure to check out The History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on Yo MTV Back with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.